Okay, friends, I wanted to walk you through what I did to beat the level 40 version of this fight. So this is the end of a run where I just got wiped. So starting off, you're going to end up seeing the effects that I used. So feel free to pause or slow down. But basically, I needed to make sure in selecting these different things that the enemy didn't have too much health, because the second phase, the biggest issue I run into there is the health of the opponent more than anything else. And so I basically keep their HP lower and then keep my attack from getting decreased too much. And then you'll end up seeing in here that I reverted the highlights reduction on this particular run, and this ended up being the deciding factor. And so, like I said, you can kind of pause as I go through these effects, but I found that was an issue, as was the navigator not coming up often enough. And so that ended up having to leave just because I didn't have other effects that I could, I guess, overcome. And so you're kind of seeing what I'm doing here. But these are what I'm going for. There might be other versions of this to run, and I guess it partially depends on your team. Now, one of the big things you're going to notice is my Makoto's level 80. So I don't think you're going to be doing this at level 70 for most teams. Maybe there's some people that will. And then I'm not bringing anybody who's buffing crit, and that's because I turned off strategists. And so I figured Makoto could do this well enough without a strategist sitting around. So, that's kind of just the approach I took. I failed this several times before I got this to go on. Some of the things that I'm doing here as well is to help survivability. I'm using Norn with shields just to give me that extra little bit of buff, and that certainly helps out tremendously. And then the biggest part that you want to do on this first phase is get rid of Bishamoten on the far left there. He gives this whole affinity resist or drain depending on which effects that you pick. And so my top priority, besides just not dying, is to take him out of the fight as quickly as possible, basically with Makoto. Now, the rest of the team is basically doing their typical rotation, so Vino's just doing her 1-3 kind of a thing. And then for Minami, the only thing I'm being careful with is choosing when to use her big party heal. If I don't need it, I'd rather sit on it here and save it for like a clutch save at a different point in time, knowing that I've got some shields that I can use between Puppet and Wonder himself. And then the Bishamoten that I have is just to give a little bit of extra buff to Makoto's damage. And so everything I'm doing right now is just really around getting rid of him. That's the big strategy for me. And I think that's really your best play for whatever team you use. It doesn't really matter who you pick here. Whoever you're picking, get rid of him first. You want to get two of these guys down as fast as humanly possible so that you transition into the second phase quickly. And again, this is just my strategy using, you guys are all going to tell me this is not a free-to-play friendly team, and I would agree with you. So, the point of me showing you this is not, yet the how to do this with a lower level team or with a, what if I've never pulled team or I've only pulled a couple teams. It's hard to really sit back and say that, every single different combination of people can get you through here. I definitely think there's teams that are just going to struggle too hard, and it's not going to be every single team can complete this. That's the reality of this particular mode, in my opinion. So right here, I'm using her highlight because I want to get rid of him, and so that's a way to do it. And now I'm going to switch over to, was that Jikokuten, I think? And same thing, now my whole goal is just to take down a second character while hopefully having enough health as I go into the second phase. If I wasn't running a Makoto team, I'd have to really think about who I think would be best here. I think the effects that I selected, I probably would still maintain. You can see there I almost just died. But I wouldn't necessarily cut those or change them outside of there's one that reduces the damage depending on the elements that you bring. And so obviously don't reduce the damage of the main element that you're taking with you. You go ahead and take away the ones that you're not using. And that's probably, a key thing. If I had reduced Makoto's damage by 80%, I definitely would have lost this run. Yeah, and you can see here I'm just trying to survive. So I'm trying to commentate over the video I just recorded for this because I was too busy thinking to actually record this with sound as I was going through it. So this is a track after. But I think that really heavy single target damage is pretty good here, especially for phase 2. I think curse damage could be really good in terms of, I'm spacing the guy's name, but the one that Per Platypus likes, that can add curse stacks, because you're going to see my strategy here on the second phase in a minute. But I think curse could be good. I think burn is really good here. So you could look at this potentially with an on team. The problem with the on team is the second phase is definitely a single target phase. I think I would struggle to bring Leo in here though, and to run like a Leo Ryuji team, because that boss can do some real damage. And if he's wiping your party, well, you're just SOL. So I don't know that a Ryuji team would be the easiest to run here. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but I don't think it's going to be as easy as a Makoto team, who is just inherently more tanky than he is. Fox could possibly be it, but I think you may run into churn limitations on Fox, and you'd be lacking some single target damage. So you would have to think about how to shore that up, which you could do the same way I do in the second phase, which is with Pazuzu. But you see here I'm taking quite a bit of damage, so you're definitely going to want a healer. And if you don't have Minami, this is where you're going to bring your Cattle, you're going to bring your Mona if you've built up, Morgana. Either one could be fine here. I would think that Lufel would be better just because of his ability to apply burn, which I think is helpful in this fight. The second boss, or the second phase, just has a crazy health pool. All right, so here we are. I'm in a pretty decent spot because I've been holding on to this highlight, and I'm able to heal myself before he gets his attack off, or she gets her attack off. I can't tell on the screen. my recording screen, you can't tell, is only about 2 inches wide, so I can barely see what it's on the screen at the moment. But same thing with Vino. I'm just going to 1-3, 1-3 and try to get things applied. And then I saved her highlight because I want to get these ailments applied as quickly as possible so Makoto can do the most damage possible. So that's really all I'm doing with Vino there. And then for Puppet, this is where, again, I just want to survive. And because the cooldown is significantly increased, I'm going to go right into my skill 3 to get the bigger shield. And then here, again, I'm just trying to get through it. So a good thing to do is if you bring Pazuzu, you get the curse stacks, and then he triggers them. And you'll notice that I have burn also with my wonder. It's the attempt to apply burn, which with Pazuzu also would apply curse at the same time. It's the same strategy I used on the level 25 piggy bank in that crazy run that I did. And then again, the other thing you're going to notice here is with Minami, I'm not always going to do something. Sometimes I'm going to guard because she can be pretty squishy, and I'm going to save her big heal for when I really need it. So I'm more often than not going to use her smaller heal, her 2-person heal. And then here again, whenever I have the opportunity, you see that I'm using Wonder to do that Pazuzu curse damage. And of course, Makoto is just skill 3. She's a one-trick pony in this fight, and she's just there to do as much single target damage as you can. And she would do a lot more if she had like Dionysus buffing her with Rebellion, or if I put Rebellion on somebody else. But again, I just tried a different strategy here, and this is the one that worked for me. I'm not saying this is a perfect run, or that this is one that is for the ages and has like the best strategy ever known to man. It was effective enough to get me the win, and that's really what I was going for here, and I thought I would share it with all of you. And so right here, I did not do the curse move because I was worried about taking too much damage. The damage definitely ramps up as this battle goes on. And so I started playing it safer by applying shields. And now I'm back to Makoto's highlight, which is fantastic. And you'll see that like she's not doing the most damage ever, but by comparison of somebody else, like this is a decent amount of damage for her on this boss. I wish she had her crit buffed up though. That's one thing I am missing without having Dionysus or somebody else to buff crit. And right here, I'm checking to see if I have burn applied. I don't, and so I'm going to switch over and try to land it. I don't think I actually landed on this hit though. So I get the curse, but I don't think I actually get the burn, because that percent of HP on somebody with a high HP pool is just, it's a wonderful thing to do. Almost cost the run right there, because you can see that Minami got smacked pretty hard. And of course Makoto does Makoto things, which wasn't much in that hit. And so yeah, it's so very close to dying on that last round. And this is what happens a lot of times. You get this part of the round, and then somebody gets nuked down before you can finish it off, and that's the unfortunate part of this fight, is you can get this close and then fail. I certainly did quite a few times. And there you go. You see it was like, what was that, 6 plus 39 I think I saw there, so over 40,000 on Wonder because of that Pazuzu trick. And then now you see the damage really ramping up, so it's at this point you've really got to close this fight out. But thankfully I got another 85k on that, you know, HP bleed type damage. So that's it. That's the fight. Again, this wasn't meant to be a free-to-play necessarily kind of a thing, but it gives you an idea of how to think about the fight, what your priorities are, and I think ultimately just the way to approach it. And I'll still maybe test some teams and see if I can do it with an easier team. But that's it, my friends, and I hope you enjoyed it. Take care of yourselves.